Hey, good afternoon. We will go ahead and get started. I don't have my list up as far as participants right now, so I can't tell who all joined, but I did have about a dozen or so email me, text me in the last day or two asking if this was going to be recorded, which would have made purposes. I like to all the Zooms that we're doing this year, make sure they're on our YouTube channel so they're easily accessible to anyone who wants to view them on their own time. They have to jump off these calls. I know 5 o'clock's not advantageous for everybody or a good time for everybody, but there's not, never a great time, which is why I definitely want these on our YouTube channel. So you can share them or look at them whenever you want to. But I'm excited about this. I have been asked multiple times by clients to consider doing something directed to single females, whether whether you're divorced or widowed or single by choice, they're in a partnership, have recently been broken up in a relationship, or even really even married. I don't really think there's going to be a few things we'll talk about today and in our next couple of sessions that are going to be maybe towards women who are single, but realistically, it's all women would benefit, I think, from a lot of what we're going to talk about just to learn and know, and really anybody, men or women for that matter. But when I was looking at my relationships I have with clients, 30% when I ran my numbers are single women. So that tells you anything. And a lot of those are widowed. They're older ladies, but a lot are divorced or are just single. They or have a partnership. They never officially got legally married, which it's perfectly fine, of course. So there are a few things that we do talk about differently maybe than we do with a married couple, but like I said, some of these topics are going to translate into pretty much everyone. So let's go into a little more depth today to discuss kind of how we're going to go through the session. Our course is going to be, and we'll try to keep this to 30 minutes or so. I do talk a little fast, so there are good many slides, which I'll easily share with anybody who wants these later if you let me know. But our course today, a little bit on what financial planning is. Some of you may be clients already of ours and you know what that looks like. Some of what organization is about. A lot of that's going to be single or not single conversation too. And then also on a little bit on estate planning today. And then the next three courses for the rest of the year we're going to have in June is part two, in September is part three, and December is part four. Again, if they're recorded like we talked about, you can pull these up whenever you kind of want to. Some of these will flow into each other. And I think you'll get kind of an understanding of that, particularly as we head into the second session, how they're going to touch each other and connect. Why would we focus a little bit more on this for singles? One asked, being that I have such a large client base who are single women, I was asked to do a little bit more of this for them. But realistically, women tend to ask for more advice, which is awesome to us. Men, and being one, I know this, so a little bit more DIY. So kind of like to do things on their own a little bit more, try things out on their own a little bit more, maybe sometimes embarrassed to ask questions that they think they should know. Beauty is a lot of my female clients are great. They tend to ask a lot of questions. They want to know, they want to learn, they want to understand, and they tend sometimes to worry a little bit more about risk. Maybe that's a mother instinct to some degree. When I talk to my wife or my mother or really close female friends, that kind of comes out a little bit when I ask that. But it's just a genuine care to learn and ask someone who they feel is an expert. It takes a little longer for some of our female clients to, especially with newer ones, to trust. But that's awesome. That means we have to work a little hard to earn that trust. So when we give advice to them, they feel that advice is right because they have developed that relationship to understand what we're doing. So that is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the different sections of financial planning as well. We'll touch on some of these. You saw that slide when I mentioned about the sessions we're going to do for the year. So a lot of these are going to translate into those sessions we're going to do each quarter. And these are what financial planners are all about. So if you are working with someone who is a financial planner, or you're working with us as a financial planning firm, hopefully you're getting this. We're covering these different facets, and tax is part of this too. It's not even on this slide, but we're covering each of these to some degree in a little bit deeper explanation to you and your circumstances. There's nothing cookie cutter. It should be all basically designed for what you're looking at doing. So, and a lot of our female clients are looking for this. A lot of our male clients will, and when I put this in front of them, sometimes they'll pick a section. Let's talk about investment management. Let's spend most of our time on this year, or let's talk about estate planning. Let's pick more about this year. A lot of my female clients, particularly, they love this holistic approach and to go into each of these sections and then kind of flowing around this as the years go on. We don't cover everything in one year. We sometimes we break this up for them, but they really dig in deep and want to learn as much as they can to have a better understanding for themselves and their families, especially if they have children. So our first part, we'll talk about your takeaways today, besides just understanding the financial planning, what that is. It's organization and it's estate planning. So those are the two things we're going to hit on harder today a little bit. I just besides doing this quarterly for single females, I'm doing a monthly as well. You may have gotten invitations to that also. So I'm doing Zoom monthlies, and I'll do this probably for the rest of my career because I just enjoy it so much. But the last one I did in February was on the organization. So there is actually a YouTube video. If you want to it's about 30 minutes long. So if you want to get deeper into really organization, getting your financial house in order, or personal house in order, it's going to talk much deeper than I'm going to do right here because I don't want to take too much of your time since there's already a video out there for that. But what I'm talking about with organization is figuring out the things that you can't control, and you can control your organization. There's too many things that we deal with on a daily basis in life, whether it's family or businesses or whatever that is, that we have really don't have a ton of control over. It is what it is. Keeping ourselves organized, keeping ourselves structured, cleaning out the clutter, as I say a lot to people, probably too much, is something that we can control, and it feels good to do that once we get to that point. If we're better organized and control what we can't control, we reduce stress. And part of a planner is what I talk to clients about is with all those things on that pie chart, on that circle, is to address and reduce stress in each of those. And if we reduce stress in our lives on things, again, that we can control, then we are able to deal with stress on the things that we can't. We'll make better decisions. When I have conversations with people who call with whatever the circumstance is, and they're just high stress at that moment, usually there's layers to that. It's not even that one thing that they're stressed about. When I talk to them deeply, and I know I sound like a therapist when I say this, but when I go into a deeper conversation with them, there's other things that's just piled up. And now this is like the straw that broke the camel's back. So if one thing we can get is this kind of stuff, it's buttoned up and organized and in a system that will work for you. My gosh, is the relief I've seen with clients that have done that is unbelievable. Some people need professionals to help them do this, and I completely understand that. There are actually companies. There's actually a group in my area in Athens that I've recommended out who's helped some clients just do some of this organization for them. It's almost like your financial closet and help them put some things together. So a couple of talking points or a piece of advice with some of this is destroy everything that can't easily be is easily retrievable. So if there's anything that you're pack rat and are storing in file cabinets and drawers, and your businesses are different if you own a business maybe, but personal. So if you just have bank statements or financial investment statements or, oh my gosh, invoices, bills, receipts that are years and years old, get rid of them. You can pull those up from almost anywhere. Banks, I mean, online access, calling offices of bankers or planners or tax advisors or insurance agents and those type of things. You can get those records pretty easily, and you really probably never need them. So there's no reason to keep things that are older than a year. And usually I say it's older than the current tax year that you're in. So here's a perfect example. Some people keep they keep statements or invoices or receipts because they're filing their taxes, right? So we're in March now, is a big tax filing month as we're getting prepped to do that for April, or if you file an extension further out into that. But once your taxes are filed and accepted by the IRS, all those receipts and all that stuff that you've stored, for the most part, you don't really even need those. I mean, your CPA is keeping a lot of that. I'll talk about how your tax return and maybe keeping some of that a little bit longer. But a lot of the stuff, especially if you never use it for your taxes, you're holding on to it just in case, get rid of it. And when I say get rid of it, does not mean throw it in the trash. I think that's pretty obvious. We're going to talk about shredding. If you have an industrial shredder, also most people just have a one paper shredder at a time. Those are terrible if you have a lot of clutter. So companies like us, firms like us, or banks or community organizations, they always have shred days. Take them to those. Or if you're not in an HOA neighborhood, you can do what I do and start a fire pit, burn them. So just get rid of everything you possibly can that you're pack rat. And this is going to go into estate plan in a second too with your family, by the way. If anything you can do online, do it online. I mean, I know a lot of people are less trusting of maybe doing some things on computers, but realistically, paying bills online, or really having that set up for auto pay. Again, paper that you can pull online, all your statements, your tax documents. I mean, our clients, if they set it up right with us, they don't get statements, they don't get their tax documents directly. They just pull it up on their phone app or on their computer app, whatever they need to give their CPA. Heck, our office is 100% paperless, so that may shock some people. For my firm, we don't have file drawers at all. Everything is digital. Everything's on cloud networking or stored through some other kind of digital access. We have nothing on paper. So if somebody signs something with us, that wet signature is scanned and destroyed. It is not kept here at all. Some of that safety measure because somebody ever broke into the office, they can't take documents. That's another beautiful thing. Stop mail, safety measure. Don't get things in the mail anymore. That's kind of old school now. I still have to say that, but I've been singing that song for about 20 years, and I've got plenty of stories of mail that's I found out was taken, and for whatever reason, not a lot they maybe can do with a one mail grab, but still, just sensitive documents in a mailbox just scares me to death. Worst case, use a post office box if anything, if you have to get mail. I mentioned auto bill pay. I mentioned we're digital. Cloud storage is great. In a lot of cases, it's more secure if you secure it correctly, because it can be, than most anything else. So I would put everything you possibly can on cloud storage. One, it's easily organized that way. Another reason. And a third reason is because that you can cycle out when you need to. So if old records need to be destroyed, there's no destroying, it's deleting. And that makes it super easy. I would also say never store stuff on your personal computer or your laptop or your desktop at home, your CPU unit. I would always do it on an external drive. So if you do store stuff on your laptop and you take it back home or to your office, have an external drive. It's about the size of your cell phone, costs $50, $60. It's encrypted with password. It's hard to access. Somebody get their hands onto it. And you can store all your backup documents there as a physical place to me to put things. If you need a more physical thing, some people do like touching paper. There are certain documents, and I'll talk about those in a second, that probably do need to be paper stored to some degree. A safe at home or safe in your office, a fireproof, waterproof. Don't forget the waterproof. So if you have your safe down in the basement, your basement floods. Well, fireproof's great, but it's not waterproof. There you go. I have one at my house. They're literally 50, 60, $70. They're not that expensive. I don't have a big one because I don't keep a lot of stuff. And then lastly, for passwords, keep some kind of password manager. I have one on my phone called Keeper. Does a fantastic job. It's just so you can just keep track of things again, keep those organized, so when you have to pull records are easily accessible. So this slide is some of these slides are prepared by John Hancock. I stole some of their things with permission, but a couple other key things to keep in mind. If you're, I would say this: you annually need to look at this. Okay, you annually need to look at your assets, liabilities, income sources, expenses, so your budget, your net worth statements, your cash flow report. You probably need to look at those at least annually. If you're working with us, you do that because we kind of force you to. So I would look at it annually. If you have a life event, if you go through a divorce or about to go through a divorce, I will end up every year talking to 3 or 4 easily females who are thinking about divorce, haven't even filed yet, but they want to kind of get some of their affairs in order beforehand. That's awesome. I mean, that's when you should do it, if you can trust that somebody won't leak that you may go through this process. But if you have a major life event, of course, a death of a husband, you want to definitely dig into this and get a little deeper with it. So just make sure that you inventory and everything that you have. You're keeping track of it. You know who you are, where you are in your current environment, what you're worth. Know where your documents are, whether it's physical or digital. Again, I prefer digital. There are some things physical, which again, I have a list in a second. Know what your credit score is. If you go through a situation, I don't track my score all the time. I do use LifeLock. So if you want an app or a system that works really well for me to track things or you to track things, I have my whole family on it. So we use LifeLock. Any major transactions or anything that keeps my credit score besides just activity. But it tells me where I am. So if you go, especially go through a divorce, I would definitely say you want to start checking credit score and making sure your credit's okay, just as things progress through a divorce, particularly. And then, and I said mention track your spending. So just know, again, if you go through a life event, financials will change. So finances will change. So whether it's a death of a spouse or whether it's divorce from a spouse, or you will probably have some finance changes, and you just need to be really careful tracking that. And I would dare say that over the first 12 to 18 months of that life event, that you pay close attention to it and notice how it does adjust as you settle. Because as you settle into your new life or your next venture journey, some of this will change. So just pay attention to it as you go forward. And there's just anything else that's clutter wise, just be sure and get rid of it. Don't hang on to old things, old joint statements and old joint stuff that you just really don't need laying around the house that people can have access to. That's just not good. Particularly something eventually did happen to you. You passed away, and then there's all this. Oh, this goes into estates planning. Then there's all this old stuff your family's going to uncover, your friends are going to uncover, and they don't know if it's good or bad. It's just it has an old date on it. Now they got to research it and double check it. So a lot of this organization is not just for you today to make sure you have less stuff laying around. It's actually for your family, your friends to help settle your affairs once you're not here. I can't tell you how many times I've been through this with clients, but even on personal situations, going through my father's things was tough. Um, so because he just kept too much stuff. He didn't listen to my advice, shocker. And there was just too many things he could have done beforehand that could have made it easier on my mother and my brother and myself. So I'm begging people and friends, family, and clients to actually take care of some of this, clean that clutter out before something does happen to them. So here's a list of documents to save. Again, if you want to copy this presentation, email me and I'll get that to you. So you have this list. There's just some things. So you want to hold on to most of these. If you have these, I would say you probably want a paper copy, a majority of them. Some of them don't necessarily have to be paper copy, but most people feel comfortable with that. So that's perfectly okay. I do like having a digital copy of everything though. So even things like life insurance policies or social security card or vaccination records, that is all digital. I pretty much can pull I almost can pull every one of these documents that I have. I don't have adoption papers or divorce decrees, but I can pretty much pull every one of these on my cell phone on an app. So I have them digitally stored that I can that's password protected that I can access them if needed. So I would definitely tell you to do that. Keep them in a safe place. Again, a safe deposit box isn't the best place unless you have a cosigner on the box that can access it in case something happens to you. Home safe. Somebody can steal it, but I don't know how much of these information is going to be very valuable to them. But you can obviously home safe works perfectly well to do some of this. So, but do keep digital copies if you can. And again, don't use the CPU unit hard drive. Keep that on an external hard drive. Then you can store that in a sock drawer or something. Nobody's really looking for that much. And you just want them where they're quick and easy to access. I do want to, tax returns, since we're in tax season, I'll just say this. This was more on that organization Zoom call that I did, but keeping them 3 years. So pretty much everything else that you have that's, from bills, receipts, and all this kind of things, statements, just toss them. You don't really need them, shred them, burn them. Tax returns, usually when you file 3 years. So when you file this year's tax return, 3 years ago's return or information that you maybe hung on to a little longer, you can toss it and you can get rid of that. If you have a unique circumstance with your return, you have a worthless security that you filed on your return, or your CPA just said you may want to hold on this to a little bit longer. I'd ask them that. It's usually 7 years. After 7 years, you're clean. So if you have a tax return from year 2000, you are holding on to something you really don't need whatsoever. So I wouldn't even want that personal information laying around anywhere where somebody could accidentally uncover it, find it, steal it, whatever the case may be. So the last topic we're going to go over, and we'll make this fairly quick, is estate planning. I think most people pretty much know what estate plan is. Everybody has an estate. If you own anything, you have an estate. Own anything, you have an estate. So, I mean, basic documents for an estate, obviously, your wills, your power of attorneys, your healthcare directives, those types of things. I mean, a lot of people understand that. What I want to hit on this just a little bit was more when you have an event that happens. I've talked to plenty who've gone through divorce or who've gone through the death of a spouse and they have not really addressed this for a few years. This is one of my first things. So as we're going through or a divorce decree is finalized or we get through the estate settlement for their spouse and now they're alone, widowed, this is one of the first things we do. We review everything again, make sure it's all correct, make sure they're going to be that they got it exactly where they want it, not just where they were when they were a couple, and that again, it's up to date, it's fresh. The family begins to learn these things, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds. For a comprehensive estate plan, we mentioned the simple stuff, the wills, the power of attorneys, the advanced health directives. But estate planning goes into things like gifting strategy. It talks about how your life insurance is structured, if you have any, if you have minor children, guardianship, of course, is important. But a big one on here for us as a financial planner, as you can well imagine, is a trusted professional. So part of estate planning, as well as all financial planning, is making sure that we have a team around you, that you have people who are going to work with you on an ongoing basis, whether CPA, attorney, financial planner, life insurance, or an insurance agent in general, a banker, that they are doing what you need them to do. And everybody's different. So we want to make sure that it's not a cookie cutter answer by this group and everybody's talking to one another. So with that, talking about getting your estate in order, if you've never done estate planning, do it 100%. If you've gone through an event recently, a major life situation, do this, review it real quickly. But to make this a very smooth process, and this is part of, I mean, I'm a little bit, I feel that we as a planner, if you're working with us, ought to be one of the first people you talk through. Just a couple of reasons. One is that we're going to make sure that organization that I mentioned a second ago is good. So we're going to go through a lot of things before you ever get to an attorney to draft your documents or review your documents. We're going to do some of the same things, some of the same conversations an attorney's going to do with you. We just don't legally draft the documents. So we're going to talk about things. Our role is conversationalist. We want to learn you. What do you want? What do you don't want? How does that work in the law? Maybe how does that work with family members? Stories we've seen over our careers that can benefit you or not. But we're going to get a lot of this in order to make that conversation with that attorney as smooth as humanly possible so that it is done efficiently, quickly, and to your wishes. Some people are intimidated by attorneys, so doing this for them makes them feel more comfortable anyway. So we're going to do a lot of this work to make it simple for them. Another reason we like to get involved is to get you to the right person. So I am 100% convinced not everybody's going to do the best work for you. And so we basically make sure, besides just prepping, that we get the information and we'll send it directly to the attorney that we get you to as well. Or if you're already working with somebody that's on our list, we'll get it to her or him. But I mean, we vet pretty heavily. So we're going to make sure that the attorneys we work with for estate planning are estate planning attorneys. They're not an attorney. My son's in law, so I can pick on law a little bit. They're not he's in law school. They're not a real estate attorney who says they also draft wills. They're not a divorce attorney who says they're also going to plan your estate. We're going to get you to a little bit more of an expert when it comes to this. We're also going to get you to experts who are going to make sure you are taken care of, customized to you, and they're not just coming up with the same plan they're giving every one of their clients. And unfortunately, there are several of those that have popped up in the country through different groups. So we want to once this is done for you, it's going to be reviewed every once in a while, every 3 to 5 years anyway. But we want to make sure it's done right. And if we're involved on the front side, we will get you to the people who will make sure it's done right at a fair cost for sure. Another one for some of my state attorney friends and referral sources that they know this. If your situation is super simple, some of these online digital programs are perfect. So if all someone needs is a will, a power of attorney, healthcare directive, something really easy, it's not a lot of complication in their life, there may not be a reason to hire an estate attorney to put this together for you. There are several programs, and one particularly that we've referred clients to that will do this. My attorneys that I've told this to respect that. So it's not that I'm not taking anything away from them. It's the same with us. So there's a lot of people don't need comprehensive financial planning. I don't want to work with somebody who doesn't need comprehensive financial planning because I'm not giving them value. I want if they're going to pay us, I want them to get as much value out of us as possible. They don't need to use a more sophisticated firm. They need to use maybe an online planning system. That's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. We just want to make sure that our friends, family, and clients and those in the community are taken care of the best possible with what they need. So I mentioned a second ago, it's not just about you, it's about everybody else. So in doing some of that, we just want to say, we just want to take serious consideration that you've got things properly structured in your estate plan to make it easier on the next person. That may be a guardian for children. That may be your executor, your trustee, one of your children, a beneficiary, all those types of people who could be involved when you're not here anymore, or you're sick, or or possibly or disabled, or have a senior need to go to a senior facility. We just want to make sure everything possibly that could be put in place is check marked that it is. And that's some of the things we would do with planning, life planning, if you will, for a lot of our clients. The middle one that says the emergency fund 6 months, that's a cookie cutter kind of thing. I think this was a John Hancock slide too. So just that we won't say that is the answer for sure. But it's part of the discussion, making sure you have emergency funds set up correctly. So it's again, it's protecting your assets, yourself, and your heirs. So this transition at some point in time is going to be as efficient, as smooth as humanly possible. And when things aren't smooth, they cost money. I think you've heard that before or know that. So if there's hiccups or knots or confusion or people go down the wrong path, whether it's fees from attorneys, fees from others, taxes that weren't things that are taxed now that they could have avoided taxes, all those kind of things that can be doing this properly, organization to estate planning. It's time now to do that, and it takes time to do that, but it saves time later for others, and it definitely saves money. It 100% saves money in going forward. So, and that goes next into, or lastly, in a family discussion. Just make sure you're talking to your family about your situation. I think that's the one key bullet on this whole slide is that they are in the loop on everything. Especially as you age. I mean, when you start hitting it, when you start getting later in life, your children now have children, so you have grandchildren, so your children are adults and they understand, and they may be the ones that are selling your affairs at some point. Just what's your situation? I mean, where are you? Who are you working with? Make sure they have a list of all your financial professionals or professionals in general. Call Chris at Highland Trust Partners. He's my financial planner. Call so and so. He's our CPA. Call her. She's our estate attorney. So that they know exactly who they need to be working with to smooth this process for them. And it's huge to sit down and have this discussion. I mentioned those monthly Zooms. So you probably getting all our emails. Pencil this on the 18th of the month is going to be one basically on the family discussion. So my Zoom call, probably shorter than this, maybe 20 minutes on March the 18th is going to be about how to have or what to talk about with your family when it comes to their instructions essentially, what you want them to know, what you may be leaving behind, what you want to take care of before you do that. And I think that's going to be a really cool, really fun presentation to do. So also your parents, if you have, I mentioned my dad didn't share much with us, very private, kind of goes down that first, one of those first slides I talked about today. The men just seem to DIY things, keep things to themselves. If they make mistakes, they're embarrassed to share those mistakes. That was my dad. I mean, he just wasn't. He was in finance as a banker, and I just didn't think eventually after he passed, I just realized he just didn't want to open up everything and show his children, his wife, that my mom, that what everything looked like, and it was a little it was more than a little messy. So I think it's more embarrassment on his part to some degree. but there are tons of things that can be done ahead of time. All this information is shared just for you. That can translate to your folks as they're still living. In my conversation, which I'll do on that Zoom call till the 18th, is to say to them, it's not to take power away from you, it's to empower you, that you have control of things while you're living, and that it's not when you're past that the family steps in and just starts destroying kind of your systems in place. So we'll talk a little bit more about that then, but I'd love you to chime in on that, tune in on that Zoom as well on the 18th. So this is my contact information. I think everybody has this who is either on this now or will listen to this recording later. Email me with questions. If you want the presentation, the slides, I'll send those to you. Email me and tell me, hey Chris, I want the slides. If just as some of these have some notes on it, maybe that you would like to see. If you've gone through any situations in your life, you're recently or been divorced for a while, you've recently widowed or been widowed for a while, and you want something that's more direct to maybe you, I do have some things that were put together. I mentioned John Hancock, some of these slides. I do have some checklists and some surveys and some different information that's very helpful to groups. So you can email me and say, Chris, I'm a widow or I'm divorced. I like to learn more about some things that maybe I ought to pay closer attention to. I'll send you those as well, so you can take a look at those worksheets and checklists. And if you want, more consultation on those, you can reach out to the office, to me, or anybody on my team, and just say you would like to talk a little bit further on that. But anyway, I'm going to close it at that. If hope that helped for today. And going forward, share this with anybody that you want to if you feel it will be helpful to your friends and family. And hope you can listen to our other recordings through the months. And I'll definitely hope you can chime in on the second quarter coming that we'll do our next single female presentation. And we'll go from there. Thank you for everything. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.